Hey everyone, Andre here, along with Paul Gale, to give our official review of Super Nintendo World. Paul attended the opening media days with me a couple days ago, or however long ago it's been. It's been a blur, we've done a lot, and we're going to review the entire world right now. Now, we've already specifically reviewed the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge ride by itself, so now we're going to focus on everything else you can do with this land, or world, once again. And let's start off with you, Paul. How did you feel about finally being able to go to Super Nintendo World in person?
As you saw in the video that I recorded from my first day, I cried. Cried not because I stubbed my toe or anything like that, but just sheer overwhelming joy that I felt because Nintendo means so much to me, and I have such deep-rooted nostalgia in this body for Nintendo, and that magic didn't leave on my second, third, fourth visit. It's still there. It still feels beautiful. You know, if I didn't have a family, I would consider moving out of my house and finding a way to live inside of Princess Peach's castle, or I would settle for like the back of the Toadstool Cafe. But like, that's a place that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I wouldn't mind revisiting many times over. It's just a magnificent trip.
Settle for the back of Toadstool Cafe. He's like, I'll settle for the slums of the Mushroom Kingdom. I don't care where I am.
I'll take it.
Yeah, my experience isn't too far removed from you. Like, this is literally something I've been waiting my entire life for. Like, I'm a huge theme park guy, I'm a huge Nintendo guy, so having those two finally come together is amazing. I was so bummed when, you know, Super Nintendo World opened up in Japan and I couldn't go because of the pandemic, but it's finally here after being announced, I think, basically 8 years ago, and it's about as amazing in person as I ever could have hoped it would be. It is such a cool place. It did such an amazing job capturing the look and feel and the magic of Mario into a physical space to a degree that I didn't even really think was possible. And they're doing like things here that I have not seen anywhere, like in any other theme park, world, or land, or whatever, you know. It's so cool how it's interactive. You have so much going on. There's like a kinetic energy to the entire place that's unmatched. You have like Mario enemies everywhere, like moving around constantly, like Goombas and swamps that drop down, and like little bursts of air pop out as if, like, you know, it's kicking dirt away. It's amazing. And then of course you have Mount Beanpole itself, which you know, is one of the more recent Mario landmarks, and it looks awesome in person. Like, the sense of scale of this thing is amazing. Like, pictures can't quite convey just how big it feels, how it like towers over you, and I love that. Of course, you have Bowser's castle and Peach's castle and just everything. It really does transport you to a different area. It really makes you feel like you're in not a Mario game. It makes you feel like you're in Mario's universe, and I love that. It is so cool, so awesome. It really is something unique by theme park standards, just across the board, and in really making you feel like you're part of this experience that we've grown up with our entire lives, and that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's a tremendous achievement. Everything, it looks, it feels real. It's grand in scope. They nail every element, you know. Touch. You could feel all of the different texture work applied to the different stones, bricks, everything in the park. Visuals, it's clean, and, you know, old video game terminology, remember bump mapping? If
yeah,
something was not flat, it was bump map, right? The anti-aliasing in this park is stunning.
It's on the charts. 4K visuals in real life.
60 frames per second. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it hits all of those check marks perfectly. You know, music holds a big part in our sentimentality, in our nostalgia roots. And when you're walking through the park, and whether it's Princess Peach's castle over here, this kind of music, or, you know, in the Mario Kart ride, Yoshi music, it takes you back to a different part in your life. Oh, I was in university during this time. I was a little kid playing when I was 4 years old, and for this one, high school student playing this one. So it's just hitting you back in all of these different times that you were a fan of Mario and loved this stuff. And for me, you know, 35 years of enjoying these properties, it's a whirlwind. It's just a whirlwind of excitement, and they nailed it.
Yeah, no, they really did. Like, I think even the smaller details are standing out to me. You kind of touched on it already, but like, I thought, for instance, that like all the rocky, like the rock work, the rocky textures, like the jutting rocks from the walls would be just painted on. No, they're all like physical parts of the wall. Like, you can run your hand along it, you can feel those clear recessions and pop outs of the wall. It's so cool. It's so well done. Yeah, the way they realize this land, even if it is smaller than the Japan version, like, without knowing that in advance, I think, I mean, I feel like you don't really feel like you're missing out on anything without being fully aware of, like, you know, how much bigger the Japan version may be. Like, here, it is compact, to be fair. Like, it is, you know, it doesn't feel... It's weird, because it doesn't feel massive, but it still feels epic. You know, that's a word I think you used earlier.
Yeah.
And they do such a great job maximizing the space that they have to really transport you to this whole world, to the point that, with a few exceptions, like, you really can't even see the outside world. Like, there are a couple of times when you get up on, like, the higher level, which, you know, for the most part, the land's pretty flat, but if you go higher up, you can see, like, some of the outside world. But even that doesn't really detract from the magnificence that is Super Nintendo World.
Yeah, that was one of their goals, I remember, is feel self-contained, that these are Mario's giant green rolling hills in the background. Now, maybe some scaffolding is up in the city behind you, but that's a temporary thing. That'll go down. So then it's really just, yeah, it's almost this perfect structure where you're in this own little universe, and it's a beautiful thing. Oh, and I didn't talk on the sense of smell and taste. But those are the other two. We'll get to that later on, but like the sense of smell and taste, also very real at Super Nintendo World. They nailed those two.
I don't fully know what you're talking about when it comes to the sense of smell. We'll come back to that later. But the sense of taste, let's just hop into it. Because Toadstool Cafe, I had a great time here. Now, full disclosure, the food was covered by Universal, so maybe I feel a little differently if I actually had to pay the prices, because the food isn't cheap. It doesn't seem to be necessarily that out of line with the typical theme park experience. I believe for the both of us, we each had because we did get a receipt, we could see the itemized price of everything from what we ordered. And it looked like, based on what we each had a drink, an entree, and then a dessert. And it roughly cost, with tax, $40 each, I believe. Just a little under 40 each. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was like $76 and change is the perceived value, or yeah, what it would have been.
Now, that you know, isn't cheap. Once again, I have to say though that this is probably some of my favorite food experience I've had at a theme park at a quick eatery type thing. And you're like, this isn't like I mean, it's a sit down type restaurant. They bring the food to you as well, but it's not like a fine dining thing, and they're not aiming for that. But for what it is, it's such a cool experience, because not only is the food really good, like my fireball meatballs were actually spicy, which is something you don't see too often in theme parks. But the decor, the environment of being in this Toadstool Cafe, where you have these windows, which are actually screens, but they show the world outside, where you can see, like, you know, toads playing around, you can see enemies going by. Every now and then, Bowser's airship attacks with bullet bills firing out, and
the light.
Yeah, so when Bowser attacks, like,
cool.
storm clouds roll in, and that darkens everything, including the lighting of the restaurant. It's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's my new dine-in choice. And to go off of that, that's what I meant by smell. The food smelled good too.
Okay, that's what you meant. Yeah, got it. That makes sense.
Food tasted good, and it smelled good, and you know, reasonably priced in my opinion, because you could go to a restaurant and pay about $14 for like a good quality cheeseburger at a, you know, decent restaurant. So for the Mario burger being around like $16, it's not all that, you know, price elevated, and it's also extra. Like you mentioned, nothing was plain. The meatballs, they could have just gone the safe route, meatballs, but no, they embellished the spicy meatballs, so they made it a little bit, you know, fire flower, like that kind of thing. And you know, Mario's mushroom or burger, yeah, Mario mushroom synonymous with
Makes
it.
sense, yeah.
Even that little bit of the decal, you know, I had to pay money for, you had to use money to pay, and not gold coins either. The first time I ate there, so you know,
during the soft openings that they had.
Yeah, on like the 12th and the 19th. And I didn't complain about the price then, because I thought, oh, you're in a cool environment, the food is good, so that helps. If the food wasn't the best, you're looking at the price a little bit more. But the food actually delivered quite well, so the price was justified in my opinion. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because oftentimes when you go to like a well-themed restaurant, like the food tends to be lacking. Because you're paying more for the ambiance than the food at that point. I think they have it based on our preview event, which, you know, hopefully they maintain the food standards once with the park actually opening to the public now. I think they will, but you know, we don't know for sure. But based on what we experienced, like, I thought it was just so well done with the theming, and then the food itself. Like, we even touched on the fact that when you enter, like, you know, you can see like Chef Toad himself, who I have a plush of that I picked up in the store. And you know, he actually talks to you, not live, but he has like a pre-recorded preamble that he, you know, that just adds like a little bit of flair to the restaurant. Just a really cute detail. And yeah, I was really happy with this dining experience. Like, good food, good drinks, good desserts, even if we don't have the awesome peach cake from Japan, which is adorable, based on Mario 64. We do have a cute cupcake as well. I will say, I think, you know, maybe it was just how full I was from my sizable meatballs. I thought the desserts were good. They didn't blow me away, though. I thought the entrees are better than the desserts. I was wondering how you felt, though.
Oh, so previously I had the question mark tiramisu. That thing was excellent in my opinion.
Was it? Okay, so I missed out.
That's the best of the 3 desserts. I thought the Princess Peach cupcake was really good, and the Mount Bean Bowl was also pretty good. But the tiramisu, that would be my recommendation for folks as the first thing to try dessert-wise there. And, you know, I previously tried the Mario burger and the Luigi chicken sandwich were both great. But I think my favorite meal was, what was it called? Chef Toad's prime roast or Chef Toad's rib roast.
And that was your favorite of the foods that you've had there?
Yeah, my favorite of those 3 or 4 meals is that new one.
Now, did you find that, the thing I noticed about it, it looked good, I had a little bit, it was really good, taste-wise too. Was it filling though? But it looked like to be on the smaller size compared to some of the others.
It probably helped that, you know, I had a little bit of meatball to go with that. You know, I had a little bit of a dessert, you know, filled up on drinks that weren't being knocked over on the floor. So
happened a couple times.
I was full though. Like, yeah,
Okay,
I definitely wasn't hungry out of it, and I felt like, you know, it gave me enough.
I actually felt like I actually hadn't eaten much that day. The meatballs filled me up. I thought that was actually a really surprising serving size. Without being, you know, it wasn't ridiculous, but like it was more than I expected, and I thought it was really good in general. So yeah, Toadstool Cafe, awesome. You have to do it when you go there. It's great. Definitely check it out. Good food. You really, I don't think you can go wrong. Also, shout out to the you touched on the Mount Beanpole cake or whatever it is. Adorable. Like I thought it was good, even if I didn't love it. But the way it looks is adorable. I love that thing. How they made it look like the actual level design. So.
And certain things you get little souvenirs with. So, you know, call that one more little thing. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like a little flagpole in that case.
You know, a flagpole. You know, when I ordered the burger previously, that had a little Mario hat that comes with it, little plastic one, little Luigi one. For the kids' meal, because I ordered that too, like to go, it comes with a little question mark box, and you open up the box, and inside is a gold coin cookie that you could eat, and also little Mario figurines. So if you like little pieces of memorabilia, like call it a toy or an accessory, yeah, there's a little bit extra that you get there. And our drinks were good too, I thought.
Yeah,
I like the little drinks with the stuff at the bottom, the boba or whatever.
They were like it was like almost like a boba tea type thing, but it was really good, really refreshing. I just wished it was a little bit bigger because there's so much ice and boba in there or whatever it is. That I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of drink, but for what there was really good. Just wish there was a little bit more of it. But yeah, I feel like Toadstool Cafe is almost like a must-do. Like if you're a Mario fan especially, or just like good theme park food, you have to go here. It's really cool, really cute, adorable, good setting, good food, and you know, not horrible prices. So, one big thing about this land, Super Nintendo World in general, it really makes it stand out is how interactive it is. Like, there's little touch points around that reveal, like, you know, if you would put your power band up to it, it reveals like an 8-bit Mario character. There's little mini games throughout the land that you can also scan in to try and get keys. So, okay, here's the thing. There's like 4 little mini games around the land. If you beat it, you get a key. If you get 3 keys, you can then go to the Bowser Jr. Shadow Showdown attraction, which we'll touch on more on that in a second, but I thought it was really cool. But again, in order to get there, you have to play the minigames first. And even though you can play the minigames without a band, you do need the band to keep your keys if you want to access the Bowser Jr. attraction. And these cost $40. So we'll touch more on that in a little bit. So if you want the full experience, you need the band, and which is again $40. But what did you think of the mini games that we found? Like, you know, some of them included the Swamp Panel Panic, where he had a huge touch wall to flip all the pounds and to be the same color. You know, the Prom Plant Nap Mishap, where you're running around, you know, resetting alarm clocks so they don't wake up the Prom Plant. There's a Goomba Crazy Crank, where you're turning the crank really fast to, like, I guess, knock over a Goomba. And then there's also the Koopa Troopa Power Punch, where you're trying to time a POW block to hit a Koopa Troopa into the key. So, or knock over a Koopa Troopa, rather.
There were different levels of fun. I think the, let me see, which one was it? The Thwomp Panel Panic. I think that was the most fun one, which we also learned there's a baby mode, which we both mastered the baby mode.
We're really good at that one.
You know, like André said, all these panels in typical Mario games, you know, you've got yellow and blue, sometimes yellow and green, right? But yellow and blue in this case, and you get to decide to turn the whole board blue or the whole board yellow. So I think you picked the same one. Let's turn yellow into blue. And you have to tap them all. If you tap the wrong one, that changes a different color. And the grid is pretty wide. You can look at us playing. It's like 5 feet tall by maybe 14 feet wide, something like that. And bum, 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 bum. I mean, you're Vanna White in a Mario world. Like,
yeah, well, I didn't think about that. You straight up are. Which, by the way, then they had a parody of her in the Mario Super Show cartoon, so it's come full circle now.
Everything is full circle. That one might have been my favorite because it was really cool. It was fast and interactive. And then if you do your power-up band a second time, it gets a little bit like, oh, something's going on. What's going on? It's harder. You have to go fast. And it's, you know, level 1 after level 2 after level 3, which goes off the whole point that we did in the Mario Kart discussion. It's a park to play at. And here you're playing different live-action video games. And this one felt like a really good live-action video game where it's, you know, DS. I mean, it's touchscreen, so it is very Nintendo. So that one was a blast. Like,
yeah, I'll just kind of touch on them. I don't think we need to necessarily touch on all of them, but I think you kind of hit it on early on. You said there's like different levels to them. I think I feel it the same way. I think that one might have been my favorite. I also enjoyed the alarm clock one where I was running around like a madman trying to reset them. But on the other hand, I thought the Koopa Troopa Power Punch was such a lame one, where you get 3 attempts to time hitting a POW block, so it activates another POW block, which then activates another POW block, and hope you timed it right so that third final one hits the Koopa Troopa when he's in the pipe and shoots up. I was terrible at the timing until finally the person running it like took mercy on me and gave me a tip on when to do it, and that ended up being the one. So that one just feels so binary to me. You either get it right or you get it wrong. There's no in between. And I just didn't find it that fun. Like, it's kind of cool visually, but that one was lame. But the others I enjoyed. I think, you know, it's weird. I have mixed feelings on these. On the whole, they're fun. I like they're here. You know, they add an interactive element that you don't find anywhere else. Like, it kind of takes the magic wand idea from Harry Potter to the next level, where that's just like a simple activation. Here, you actually have a key component. You play a key role in it to earn keys, which is fittingly enough perfect. And the reward for doing so, for getting the 3 keys to get to Bowser Jr. is awesome. Again, we'll touch on that soon. My complaint, though, is that individually, with maybe an exception of Swamp Panel Panic, even maybe including that, honestly, but I like how you tied into the DS. None of these feel like especially Mario to me. You know, like, you know, never in Mario are you really running around powering off alarm clocks. I guess you collect them in 3D World. Or never are you turning cranks to, you know, stop a Goomba from approaching or whatever. So I think there was a slight disconnect there with, like, it feeling Mario-esque to me and, you know, what they were going for. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I felt like they could maybe tie it in a little bit better to mechanics of Mario. It almost feels I'm really kind of like underselling how I liked about it, or maybe downplaying it, but it almost feels like elaborate McDonald's play place activities. You know what I mean? Like reincorporated for Super Nintendo World.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, when we first saw that trailer of the Imagining and I saw people jumping on clouds and jumping on, you know, blocks in that first, like, CG quasi-real trailer, I was wondering, you know, what's the interactive level, what's the interactivity going to be like? What kind of level of play are they going to put in it? Because, you know, it's a very Nintendo thing to do things a little bit differently. They march to the beat of their own drum, so to speak. And this park, I think they had a very, you know, tightly knit, you know, interaction with Universal Studios in developing it to be a very Nintendo kind of element. I still thought it was a fun play, but some of them were a little bit, yeah, like you said, you don't do this in a Mario game to get the Goomba to go back, but, well, how do we bring that element to life in a relatively safe manner that's still kind of fun to keep each game distinct? Like Piranha, you're running around. You're running laterally in a Thwomp challenge. Maybe you could even interpret it as the Thwomp challenge, you're playing on a 2D Mario plane. And the Piranha Plant one is to get the idea of, oh, you're running around in 3D Mario, like in a galaxy type of thing. Right. So maybe that's their play of a couple of different types of experiences. Some 2D lateral stuff and some 3D ones. Yeah. Perhaps. I mean, maybe it's a little bit stretched, but they were different. I guess you could say that for sure. Each of the 4 mini games and Bowser Jr. Shadow Showdown, they were very different than one another, right?
They were. They all felt very distinct, and I think I had fun with them myself, even as a full-grown adult. I think kids will have a complete blast with these. Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, the thing is, like, you almost have to get over, like, being self-conscious, right? Like, I was running around like a fool, like, trying to activate these alarm clocks. You just have to, like, stop caring about what other people think about you doing this, crazy activity. And that's something, like, you don't see activities like that too often in theme parks. Like, Disney, for instance, had, I think the closest comparison would be, like, Toontown at Disney, where they used to have, at least, all these, like, fun little interactive houses and everything. You could, like, bounce around, but Disney shut a lot of that down for fear of, like, lawsuits or concerns of kids hurting themselves. So it's almost surprising to see a theme park lean back into that, where you are running around. You could potentially possibly get hurt. Not that it's dangerous, but you could trip and fall. You could run into something. You could run into someone else. And I think it's kind of fun that they've. That sounds terrible. Like, it's not fun that you can get hurt. It's fun though that they had these more physical-based experiences, right? And I think we can move on to the reward, if you will, the final showdown with Bowser Jr., which is really just, that actually might be my favorite part, because this is the part that actually makes you feel the most like you're in a video game outside of the Mario Kart ride, because what they do here is, it's kind of like a really elaborate Kinect game where you're projected onto a wall. You see your shadow, which is cool. It's a clever way of putting you into this experience. On this large wall, you can have, I think, 12 of you all at once as you're, like, trying to swap the bombs away. You're trying to collect power-ups, and to do all of this, you can jump in place. And when you jump up to a certain point, the game, like, it just elevates you. So it feels like you're jumping way higher than you actually are, because your virtual self on the screen or wall is, like, shooting up way high. And it actually kind of feels like you're in a Mario game where your jumps actually matter. You're like, oh, I feel a little bit like Mario, collecting power-ups, including, shrinking when you get hit or growing when you get a mushroom. You can grab fire flowers, you can shoot those off in any direction. And I thought that was a lot of fun. It's a little goofy, but a lot of fun. And I think that really kind of captured the spirit of Super Nintendo World from, like, that initial trailer that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and you don't see it, and that's kind of maybe on another point, perhaps, but you don't see that one from the park on the floor. You're looking around, you're like, okay, this place is pretty big, but not enormous. But then you go underground and, like, here's Thwomp's challenge. This is other section. And in particular, the Bowser Jr. one, it's a whole big area. I mean, underneath, well, not underground, but like underneath it all that you could see. And that's kind of a little bit of magic behind the scenes, but you get to be a part of that magic. You get to see these portraits on the wall, walk through, you can see little bits of graffiti of Bowser Jr. Xing out Mario and stuff. And then you go into this room, and then this showroom, since it is underground, there's a little bit of a different sense in the air. And when blasts of heat go up on the screen, they are, shooting you with a little bit of heat, not fire or anything like that, but you feel that gust of wind. And yeah, visually, no problems. Fun factor, definitely high. And it felt good grabbing the fire flower plant.
It
did. Shooting in different directions, and I liked it.
There is a magic, again, it's something Kinect, the Xbox Kinect, tried to do to a degree, accomplished at points, but, it wasn't really practical for home use. But I think this really, combining the physicality with the virtual experience really just kind of, like, elevate both elements, It's like, it really feels like you're physically playing this video game, and that's really cool. It kind of transported me back to, I forget if I referenced this earlier, maybe in our live Q&A, to the days of Nick Arcade, where the final challenge was they put you into a video game via blue screen, whereas, at least as a home audience member, it felt like, oh my god, they're in the game. It looks like they're in this 16-bit game. This is the closest I've had to being able to recreate that in real life, and that was a really, really fun thing. maybe this is a good time though to bring up the fact, you know, to talk a little bit more about the power bands here, because we got ours for free. They were included as part of the media tour. But these are, yeah, you have two of them. One of which you did you buy yourself, right?
Yeah, this was my $40 investment, and this was comped by Nintendo.
So these are $40. I actually talked to Universal to verify some details. You don't need these to play most of the mini games. You can play them, you just can't. It just won't save your keys because you need this to save your keys, which means there's no way to access Bowser's challenge, or sorry, access Bowser Jr.'s Showdown challenge without having a wristband, because you need those keys. You need 3 keys to access it. But I did find out that as long as someone in your party has one of these, you should be able to play with them. So technically, from what I understand, only one person in your party needs a band to fully take advantage of the full land. Even though these do other things too, like they track your coins, they track, you know, your scores, and you can view all those in the app, I believe, at any point, the Universal Hollywood Super Nintendo World app, right, Paul?
Yeah, and that's kind of neat. Your coins transfer over from day to day to day to day. So you have a LTD, a lifetime to date. How many coins do you have? You know, 900, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 I have, or something like that now. So that's pretty cool. And then you have like a daily ranking, so you can see how did you fare against the other, whatever, a couple hundred, several thousand guests that entered Super Nintendo World on that day. And then you have different like individual or group competitions, I should say, because there exists Yoshi, Toad, Princess Peach, Princess Daisy, Mario, and Luigi. So I believe that's 6. So you could see, oh, how did Team Mario fare against that? And I was a part of Team Mario, or I was a part of Team whomever. So there's a little bit more interactivity. I don't think you're missing out on too much, and that's an important thing to the power band. You don't want to make it mandatory that people are going to feel left out if, because they cost some money. You don't want to feel left out like I'm losing out on the experience by not having it. But you also want to make it rewarding that if you do have it, yeah, there's enough incentive. That's pretty cool. It has some extra fun factor, and I thought it was worthwhile. What about you?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I haven't really used the app much at all. I'm not a huge fan of having used my phone at theme parks, so I'm not even sure, maybe I'll like what it offers. Like what you said sounded pretty cool, and I can play around with it at home too now, I think, even after. So it's something I don't necessarily need to use in the park, but I haven't played around with the app much itself. I will say though, like when I found out the price of this, I'm like, what? My jaw dropped. $40 for this little wristband that does almost nothing outside Super Nintendo World besides act as an amiibo, which even is barely used these days, especially the Toad amiibo. I looked up, there's like 2 or 3 games on Switch at most that use this. So I think the price is a little out of alignment. Now I do appreciate finding out after the fact that yes, you can still play almost everything in the land without it. Of course, you do lose some of the incentive of playing in the first place because you can't keep the keys you win for doing so. Which again, you also need those keys and the wristband for accessing the Bowser Jr. Showdown. Bowser Jr. Showdown. So I think these are a little overpriced. I think $20 would be a lot more reasonable, especially if you have like a family. Like picking up like what, 4 of these? That's what, $160. That's insane. That's insanity. Again, luckily you technically only need 1, but if you have kids, they're all gonna want one. So I think that's a little absurd. That's a little crazy. I mean, the fact that all of our food at Toadstool Cafe individually was as much as this, I'd much rather spend that $40 at Toadstool Cafe. So, but that being said, I still enjoyed, using it to access like little 8-bit figures hidden around, getting the Bowser challenge or the Bowser Jr. Showdown, and I just wish it was a little cheaper. This $40 for this seems a little crazy.
Would you buy another one yourself?
I don't know.
If you lost it, how about that? If you lost this one, would you feel like now I put a bad thought in your head?
I know. It's hard, honestly, it's hard to be objective on this. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, but I feel like I might be missing out without having it. So I don't know if I can fully assess this. But I feel like I may, if I were to lose this one, I may buy another, but I would hate myself for doing so.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly, exactly. Yeah. So. Okay. But I also feel like I didn't really use it all that much. Like even here's a small complaint. Actually, I'll tie into a larger point. I'd love, again, another point of interaction. They have question blocks all over the place. You hit these question blocks, coins pop out, virtual coins that get added to your wristband. That's all cool. I did think it was a little awkward though, having to like hit it with, you know, while wearing this, it felt a little weird. It didn't always seem like it was registering properly, and the feel of it wasn't great. I don't know, it feels like you're just slamming this hard object, and I wish there was like a little more give on it. I don't know, I feel like that could be done a little bit better, but maybe that's just me.
I started hitting the blocks harder and like this instead of like this, and there must be a little bit of a, well, it is a near field communication chip, right? So it shouldn't have to touch it exactly. So I guess close enough with enough momentum was enough to set off most of these blocks.
Okay.
Now for the, you know, walls that illuminate like an 8-bit Princess Peach and stuff like that, you know, I wasn't smacking those I was gently pushing, but it was cool. And also, come to think of it, there was one in the Toadstool Cafe when you first enter, and you collect a large box or a small box, those gifts. And actually, that's one other thing that the Power Band does give you. In addition to coins, it's stamps. Stamps for uncovering hidden secrets throughout the park. So,
oh, I totally forgot to do. Yeah, I didn't get any of those. I don't think, or I haven't checked.
You might, later on in the app you check, and yeah, it's a little bit of extra connectivity. The one thing, because I don't think we touched on it, this doesn't come with it. I think you still have it too, right?
I did. It fell off. Yeah.
Right? I saw some people having a little bit of an experience of like, oh, depending on their wrist size or, you know, the slight difference in the rubber and the plastic. For some people, it was sliding off a little bit more than others. So maybe having one of these included in the box in the future, kind of like a, you know, Wii Remote wrist strap extra clamp or an extra, you know, thick string for that as a afterthought, that might be a good idea.
It should, yeah, if it's not, like, but I don't think it's in there already, as you were saying.
No.
I mean, if it is, it's way too easily overlooked. But if it is, we both missed it. Yeah, that should be included by default, because it does kind of sit awkwardly on your wrist, like, without it. Like, it can kind of pop loose. Like, I think yours even popped off at some point when you're doing something.
Hitting stuff too hard.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't a pack-in. $40 without a freaking strap to hold at your wrist. That's an issue. Because it would really suck if this just pops off your wrist without you realizing it, and well, you're just out $40. So, or someone could just like run up and grab it off your wrist. Even I don't think that would happen at Super Nintendo World. But being a theme park land, they have costume characters in this case. They have mascots are Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and allegedly Toad, though we didn't see Toad at any point during our trip. But what's cool is like these are fully like articulated facial characters. Like their mouths, they blink, their mouths move. It's really cute. It really helps bring them to life. And they actually talk too. Now they don't say anything like custom, they're all pre-recorded messages, but it adds another little extra detail, like Mario telling you, say, woohoo, or Luigi be like, let's say, you know, say Luigi, or whatever it is. Like, I thought that was really cool, and being able to meet them in person, you know, in person, was awesome. Yeah. I thought that was a really great, you know, really cool experience.
Hello!
Hi!
It's nice to meet you.
You too.
How are you today?
Doing great, thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, kids, adults alike, are going to have a good time because the people inside, they do interact. They put their hands on their hips, they pose, they know the different characters' movements well. They'll give you a high five and wave. I like that quite a bit.
No, it's really cool. Like, I don't really care about meeting mascot characters normally, but I'm like, I gotta meet Mario and Luigi. I've gotta meet my bros, the people I grew up with my entire life, and so that was awesome. So I appreciated that is now a thing you can actually do, especially with, you know, mascot characters that look this good. Like, they look like they just straight up transported Mario characters into real life. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you can, although, you know, one thing that we have not seen is how bad are the wait times going to be for everything. This is something, and this is where, again, you know, we can't fully account for this. Like, everything we experienced was with minimal wait. We got going Bowser's Challenge 5 times without almost any wait at all each time. We gotta wait, you know, get pictures of Mario and Luigi after, like, maybe waiting 5 minutes at most. You know, Toadstool Cafe, again, almost no wait except for the food, which took about half an hour or so to get out there. So I do wonder how potential waits could affect your enjoyment of this land. You know, for instance, I like pounding on those alarm clocks in that little sleeping piranha plant minigame. Would I have liked if I had to wait 45 minutes for that? I don't know, you know? Like, do I want to wait 45 minutes to run around and get exhausted for like 30 seconds? I'm not so sure. So that is going to be a big factor, because I think really the only thing that warrants a wait time that long would be, you know, the Mario Kart ride itself. Everything else is a little iffier, and I'm curious to see how that how that is going to balance itself out in the once the land with the land now being fully open to everyone.
I'm going to take my kids eventually, my son, my daughter, my wife, and I, and we'll go on a real day. It's not going to be media day anymore. It's not going to be invitation anymore. It'll be legit, and that'll be a good showing of how many people are there. From my kids' perspective, what's their tolerance level like with waiting and not having everything right away? Are they overwhelmed with senses of things to look at that it's like, it's actually a tolerable wait to spend 20 minutes to do this and that, but that'll be like their own perspective. But just how do I also feel like, oh, okay, it took half an hour to do the Goomba crank instead of 1 minute.
Yeah.
But I think it's still going to be fun because the park itself, you're almost there. You're there for a lot of different things. Like, what are you there for? For the ride, for the food, you're there for a little bit of everything. And if you're there for a little bit of everything, I think just standing still in one place at a time, you could get a lot of joy. Because I found myself sometimes just being happy, just being in my favorite IP and looking around and dang, they pulled it off. This is sweet.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see in time. But I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that really is it. Like, it really is all about how it comes together as a whole, and like it comes together spectacularly. It's just so well done. There's so much detail and love poured into every corner of this park. My complaints that I have are fairly minimal, except for maybe the $40 power band. I think that should be cheaper. Aside from that, like the complaints I have are really nitpicks. Like, yes, the land feels maybe a little cramped. Like, they really did kind of cramp Peach's Castle and Bowser's Castle in there, but it's still impressive all the same, We didn't touch on a couple other elements, too, like the bathrooms being fully themed to, like, this underwater environment.
Yeah. Which
is cute. They have, like, it's got relaxing music in there, like the underwater music from Mario.
Yeah, that was a good point. And, something that I haven't seen too many people talk on, but, in the GameXplain video from a month ago, I showed the shot of being a wheelchair accessible park. And I think that's a really important part. And not just wheelchair, but folks that might not have the easiest of time walking upstairs. Everything is flat. There's a very small, level of gradient to go into like the piranha plant zone, to go into the binocular zone. Right. It's an elevator. You could go to the elevator to the top to enter the, Bowser's challenge. So the fact that they took that into consideration is also an important part. So I think a lot of folks that might be worried, what about not being able to walk the easiest or can't?
That's a great point.
They made it for you too, so that's awesome.
It's arguably an improvement over Super Nintendo World in Japan to an extent, from what I've seen, because that one is more built around a 2-leveled experience, whereas Super Nintendo World in Hollywood is definitely more flat overall. Again, minus the basically the Mario Kart ride, where you do have to go upstairs, although again there are alternatives available too. But otherwise you can pretty much explore everything else on a flat level, and that is nice. And yeah, again, I have to stress, like, being able to like see this in person, like videos, pictures is not gonna do it justice. Like seeing Mount Beanpole, like, it just tower over you, seeing all the enemies and characters move around. It's all super impressive. Like, it's amazing what they've done with the small amount of space that they've had. And I can only hope that that it's a success, so they continue to build it, add on to it with whatever available space they have left. I would love if we get the Donkey Kong expansion that we know is coming to Orlando in Japan, because it is freaking awesome. Everything, pretty much everything here is just so cool, so well done. It's just magical. Like, it's just amazing to see this in person, especially as a lifelong Mario fan. So, yeah. I guess that brings us to maybe the final part of our review. We gotta score this, Paul. We gotta score it. We gotta give it, on the GameXplain scale. What do we give it? I'll start this one out first. I love Super Nintendo World. I think it's so freaking cool what they've accomplished here for everything I've just said. So I won't rehash everything, but the detail, the care and love that went into it, it's amazing. Being able to meet Mario and Luigi in person, awesome. Bowser's Challenge, again, which we have its own video review for, really grew on me. I came to appreciate what it actually is rather than what it isn't. Super fun time. You take it all together, and an amazing experience that you really can't get anywhere else. So, high acclaim for Super Nintendo World. I give it a love, and now I want to go see the others around the world too.
This one for me was a mind blown.
Oh man!
And it was a very easy one to do, easier than the Mario Kart ride, because I went in here loving this and hoping that something like this would happen for one day. And even after having been to 20 E3s, so I'm looking at it from that perspective too. Like, I've seen, and you have seen too, with many years of being in the video game industry, Nintendo putting up elaborate booths. Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, giant wrapping around figures and stuff like that. And even after having been to all of those press shows at Nintendo, you'd think, oh, maybe you'd get bored of it. Would it lose its luster? Would it lose its cool factor? No, this still blew me away. And that says a lot, because I've seen a lot. And most people, most of the millions of people that will eventually go there, don't make up the 40,000 people that go to E3 on a given year. So for them, it's just going to be that much more wild. So, you know, I'm not just speaking like for them. I'm also speaking just for me. Mind blown. Everything very, very high level of satisfaction. Like you said, it brought me to tears. And the fact that it did that made it emotional enough that I'm watching back that footage. And sometimes even watching that footage, I'm like, oh, dang, it's happening again. Don't watch it before the stream because I don't want to cry on the video again. Not that I mind, but, oh yeah, every bit of positivity that I could have got out of it, I got.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
just hoping for more in the future. Bring it on.
Exactly. That's so great to hear. Yeah, it's a very cool, incredible achievement what they've done here. Again, I may have my minor nitpicks, but overall, had a ton of fun here. It's a blast, especially as a lifelong Mario and Nintendo fan. Really can't recommend it enough to those who are also Nintendo and theme park fans. Highly recommended. Very unique. Great place. Fun ride. Amazing food. And just an overall great vibe from this place. So Super Nintendo World is wonderful, and as you just said, based on what I had said, let's hope they build more. We want more rides. We bring that Donkey Kong ride here. So
man.
Of course, we know it is coming to Orlando, so we may have to fly out there once that opens up. So
that'll be worth it.
I think it would be. Alright everyone, that is our review of Super Nintendo World, and again, also Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, if you want to watch our review of that as well. Thank you for watching. We enjoy you, hopefully you enjoyed getting our feedback on the land, and I'm sure we'll have more thoughts if we ever visit again in the future, which I'm sure I will, because I want to go back. Paul, real quick, where can people follow you at if they want to find out more from Paul Gale?
Both on YouTube and Twitter, I am Paul Gale Network. I'm also on the other social media platforms, but primarily Twitter and YouTube, just Paul Gale Network. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. You can find links to that in the description below. Everyone, we'll catch you later. Bye. Hope that's Super Nintendo World.
Oh, yeah.